It's been a few months since I did one of these videos, so I thought I'd just jump on and go through a few of the books I've picked up in the past couple months. Some of these I picked up very, very recently. A couple of these are a little bit older, so you might have seen them on the shelf behind me. But I don't think I've read any of them yet, which is just a terrible thing to admit to, isn't it? But let's just jump right in. First up, in a previous video, I mentioned that I read and loved The Fifth Science by 𝐓𝐢𝐬𝐬. And one of the commenters helpfully pointed out that 𝐓𝐓𝐬𝐬 actually got started as, and probably mainly, I'll link his channel in the description below, because he has very quickly become one of my favourite YouTubers, and it is exactly the sort of content that I'm looking for. But I've picked up 3 more of his books now. I've picked up The Prince of Milk, which I had to find on eBay, and I've picked up Geometry for Ocelots, and I've picked up his new poetry book, Poems for the Lost, because I'm lost too. Of all of them, this is the only one I've read so far, which I really quite liked. I've never been a big fan of poetry, but this was enjoyable and funny in parts, moving in parts, and really good. But the other 2 I haven't checked out yet. And I believe that means I now have all the 𝐓𝐓𝐬𝐬 books that are available in paperback. I think there's one more, but it's only an ebook, which I will probably pick up and read at some point. But yeah, expect reviews for some or all of those coming up soon. Up next, a book I don't really know much about, but I saw it in the bookshop and I knew that everyone had been talking about it a lot recently, talking about how good it was, and it was quite short, and I was looking for some fantasy books to read, so I did pick up Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I think this counts as fantasy, right? Let me know if this counts as fantasy. I don't really know anything about this other than it comes super highly praised, so let me know if you'd like to hear me talk about this one. Alright, up next is a book by Philip K. Dick. I've read 2 Philip K. Dick books so far. 𝐓𝐢𝐵IC, which is one of my favourite books of all time, and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which isn't. But I own A Scanner Darkly and will read it soon, and I also picked up The 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. I actually know nothing about it. I don't know what this is about in any way. All I know is that it's a Philip K. Dick book that comes highly recommended. And I think it was my preconceptions of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep that really let me down with that book, so I think I'm going to go into this one as blind as I can. Alright, I recently showed this movie to my wife. It's a movie I really love. I don't really know if it's seen as a good movie or if it's seen as a bad movie, but I loved the movie. And I've always been interested, at least tangentially, in like Age of Sail stuff, and I've been looking for kind of like a long book series in that sort of vein, so I picked up Patrick O'Brian's Master and Commander, which is, I believe, the first book of the Jack Aubrey and Stephen Maturin series, which I'm really excited to read. Me and my wife listened to this book on audiobook for about an hour, but it didn't really connect with us at the time. I don't think either of us were really paying that much attention. We went on a long drive. But I'm really excited to read this one in paperback. If there's any books in this haul you really want to see a review for, then please let me know in the comments below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you get notified whenever a new video comes up like this. Up next is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. The only Stephen Graham Jones I've read is Night of the Mannequins, which I really enjoyed. It's a really short novella about a group of friends and a creepy mannequin, and it's really, really well done, and it's one of my favourite horror novellas of all time. I know The Only Good Indians, or The Only Good Indian, is meant to be a really good book of his, but I haven't read that one yet. But I kept seeing this one in stores and I was really enticed by it, so I think this is probably the one I'm going to read next by him. Let me know if anyone's read this one and whether you think I should read this one or The Only Good Indian first. Okay, in what is going to be a complete shock, a mid-30-year-old white male has an interest in the Roman Empire. So yeah, I have an interest in the Roman Empire and the Roman Republic, and history in general. So I picked up The Will of the Many by James Islington, which is a fantasy sort of set in the Roman Empire, I believe. Again, going in mostly blind. I'll admit when it showed up, I was shocked at how big it is. It's only like 600-ish pages. The font size is a little bit small. It's very heavy. It's a very heavy book. And it's only book 1. I will read this, but I'll admit the size of it has got me a bit scared. Is anyone else like that? Does anyone else pick up a book and if it's just really big, it means it's kind of less likely to be read? Let me know if anyone else is like this, but when I pick up a book this big, I then think about it. I'm like, I'm sure this book is good. But in the time it takes me to read this, I feel like I could read these. You know, is The Will of the Many better use of my time than reading The 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch? The Prince of Milk and Piranesi in about the same amount of time. And that's what goes through my head whenever I pick up a big heavy book. And that's why I'm a bad fantasy reader, I think, because they're all huge. Up next is a book that was recommended to me. I was super excited about it. I picked it up, it arrived, and I forgot who recommended it to me, what they said, or why I was excited. And it is Nexus by Ramez Naam. I have definitely mispronounced that, and I am sorry. This seems to be a story about a drug that lets humans connect brain to brain. I don't know if it's telepathically or via some sort of technology. There's a little technology thing, little technology greebles on the cover, so maybe it's something to do with that. But it's the first part of a trilogy. I think it was probably a Reddit post that recommended this to me. I remember reading the comment and thinking that it sounded like it would be a perfect book for me, so I picked it up. Has anyone read this? Does anyone know anything about this one or this series? Let me know. Alright, we're about to finish the read-along on the channel for Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson, and so far I am loving that book. If you haven't checked out the read-along and you want to, the playlist is right up there. We are reading about 100 pages every 2 weeks, and then talking about what happened, what we think's going on, and how we're feeling about the book so far. Thank you so much to anyone that has been watching, keeping up with it. It means the world to me to check out those videos. But the next book is Green Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson, and yeah, this is just going to be the next read-along book. It looks to be the same sort of format. We'll probably do about 100 pages every 2 or 3 weeks, and work our way through this one, and if we're still looking good after that, we'll pick up Blue Mars. Up next, a book a friend of mine was looking to get rid of, so I decided to claim Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I adored the Mistborn trilogy that I read by Sanderson. It's the only Sanderson I've read so far. You can check out my reviews somewhere up there. And this is supposed to be his sort of sci-fi series, right? So that's about all I know. I did read on the back that Booklist said that his aerial dogfights are masterful, and I adore sort of military sci-fi stuff. Jack Campbell's The Lost Fleet series, some of the stuff from Warhammer. I love that fighter pilot or just spaceship combat stuff. It's some of my favourite stuff to read. So I'm keen to see what's going on in this one. Anyone that's been watching for a little bit might know that I've been interested in crime fiction. There's a few crime fiction books I've really enjoyed, mainly Malice and Devotion of Suspect X, which are just some of my favourite books of all time. But mostly I struggle with the entire genre as a whole for a myriad of reasons, but that's a whole video series of itself. But I was interested by The Gone World by Tom Sweterlich, which seems to be like a crime fiction time travel story, which is supposed to be super smart and super elegantly done, and super thrilling. Up next is something I picked up for a video, which I just haven't gotten around to doing, and that is issue number 214 of the Clarksworld magazine. Clarksworld magazine is a sci-fi magazine, mostly doing short stories and a few non-fiction pieces. I believe they have issues that come out every month, but if you're subscribed internationally like I would be, they come out you get 2 every 2 months. And I was thinking I might do a video series on them, because I've read about half this book so far and really liked it. So I was thinking that if anyone's interested, let me know. I was thinking of doing about every month or so, reading that month or the previous month's issue, whatever the latest one I can get a hold of is, and kind of just going through rating the stories and the articles and talking about it. If you want to check out Clarksworld magazine, I think that they're really worth checking out. I'm not sponsored or anything, but you can check them out at clarksworldmagazine.com and see if it's something you'd be interested in. I was really impressed with the quality of the book. For a magazine, it just is like a little paperback novella size book, and the artwork is always absolutely amazing. Alright, after pointing out in my forget-me-not book tag that I had read one Darcy Coates book out of the 3 that I own and couldn't remember which, people suggested to me that I should read Parasite by Darcy Coates. I'm looking for sci-fi horror. Sci-fi horror is undoubtedly my favourite genre, and yeah, this one came recommended, so it's Darcy Coates, it's called Parasite, it's sci-fi horror, and that's literally all I know. Alright, in the home run now, I've picked up another Warhammer book. After hundreds of comments, I feel, on my Warhammer video, I did finally pick up The Infinite and the Divine by Robert Rath. I avoided picking this one up for quite a while, because the Necrons in Warhammer just didn't super interest me at all. But everyone says it's one of the best Warhammer books that's come out in a long time. People are putting it up in just, the good book territory, not just the good Warhammer book territory. So there it is, Infinite and Divine. I will be reading that shortly. And just in case you thought I forgot, I didn't forget that it was Cyberpunk month, so I made sure there's some Cyberpunk stuff here. On the advice of Aaron Payne over at Bibliotheory, the author of Falling into Oblivion, whose review you can find up here, I picked up Tim Hawkins' Thrill Switch, which is a cyberpunk thriller set in Las Vegas to do with a murder and sort of a copycat or repeating murderer. That's about all I know, really. But it seems like it could be really cool. And I'm super into Cyberpunk right now, and the artwork on the front is sweet, so I'm keen to get into that one. And another Cyberpunk book, again recommended by Aaron, is 36 Streets. And I'll be honest, I know nothing about this one, other than it's a Cyberpunk book. It's by T.R. Napper, and it was recommended to me by an author of a book I loved, so that was enough for me. Oh, hey, it's got a blurb from Richard Morgan from Altered Carbon on the front too. That's another book I loved. So there you have it. I think that's all the books I've picked up in the last couple months. I've done pretty good at slowing down on picking books up. I got rid of a lot of comics and graphic novels at a sort of market that I went to that was really enjoyable. And here's some books to replace them on the shelf. If there's any books there you really want me to talk about, then let me know and I'll bump them up my TBR list. There's, only so long left in the year, and I'm definitely not going to get to all of them. But hopefully by this time next year, they'll all be read. So, what's the best book you've picked up recently? Let me know in the comments below. If you're still watching, thank you so much. And remember to keep reading.